Welcome to SFH Presents One More Podcast.
Welcome to SFH Presents One More Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Polk. Today I have with me Matt Brown. Ty was tied up. Okay. Anyway, Ty couldn't make it, so me and Matt are doing this alone today. Looking forward to this. This has actually been in the works for a little bit because you guys reached out to us a few weeks back. We tried to do it, something fell through, whatever, and here we are. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Me too.
Also, just to be clear, I'm not a medical professional, so I would assume neither of us are medical professionals.
No, indeed.
So if you're going through something, you need somebody, reach out to someone who is has the training to provide the necessary help. Matt, what does still fucking here mean to you?
Oh man, you go a bunch of different ways with that. I think in the terms of this conversation, what we're going to talk about today, I think it means that we've been at Chimney Trail Health, my company, we've been focused on behavioral health, human performance, cognitive warfare. We've been focused on these things since before they were cool. It's been like the last 7.5 years that we've been working on this stuff.
Wow.
And we've done it the hard way, which means that you can't just roll into like a venture capital office and say, hey, I want some money, because they're obviously looking for things like user traction or instant revenue. And what we're building at Chimney Trail just takes a long time to do it the right way. So still fucking here means that we are still here. Like it's been 7 years and now it's taken a long time, but we've built something real and it's ready for prime time. It's ready for people to use, and we're really proud to roll it out to the DoD and beyond.
I love it. It's funny because it's like it's hard to compare things, but I feel so similar to this podcast. Like you're up against it. It's going to take a long time. I knew getting into it, like building this up and getting to the enough people, the right people. It ended up being, we named the thing One More because we wanted to just be there for one more person. Like fucking let's go, dude. It's been the mantra all along. We have a great team around us, and I've met so many people like you who are doing something for the good. And we're all fucking fighting for scraps, you know. When in reality, I feel like you guys should be at the forefront. We should be at the front of things. We should be the priority, but we just got to make ourselves that.
Yeah, I think it just takes time. It's probably have something to do with social media and just like the instant exposure to success that you see, or at least like the mirage of success that you see on social media that sort of puts in everybody's mind that like, oh, it should materialize quickly. But I think, it's probably taken like 2 times longer than I thought that it would to actually get to where we are today. But I knew it was going to be a while, They always joke it's like you're a 7-year overnight success, or like you start a startup or a new podcast or whatever, and then it's like, hey, congratulations, you just embarked on a 10-year journey. Like you didn't know it yet, but it's going to be a decade-long project, so you might as well go get a PhD instead. But yeah, it just takes a while.
That's pretty funny. I mentioned this the other day. There was something when I was watching the beginning of this. Before I started, I was watching a lot of like, how-tos or how to make your podcast pop, how to do this, and just entrepreneurial shit of like, there was this one particular guy that explains like anything you do, especially a commitment, like as an entrepreneur in a business, is that you have this expectation and you start it out, but there's always this big valley, and most people quit at the bottom of that valley. And you probably faced that moment where you were like, I don't know if we should keep doing this. Or maybe you were like, fuck it. Which good on you. You're here because of that.
No, it's I had the right support system. I had that exact moment that you're talking about. We started the company. For your listeners, we're a cognitive behavior theory training company. So we give people the tools to sort of be the captain of their own behavioral health journey. And we do that through a mail delivered system of activities like straight up Stitch Fix or HelloFresh style. We ship you the kit. And then inside the kit, there's a fun little activity, but it introduces you to cognitive behavior theory and prospect theory. But when we first started the company, our go-to-market strategy and the product itself, like none of that stuff was as refined as it needed to be to really gain any sort of traction. And we started it with 4 guys, my best friends. We amicably decided that for 3 of them, the project wasn't sustainable. Like we had a rocket ship Marine that wanted to go on and be a general one day. We had a guy that was working at Google that just had offers that he couldn't say no to. And then my final teammate had some family stuff that he needed to go straighten out. And then he eventually did come back. And in that moment, when we sort of as a team disintegrated, there was that very moment that you're talking about, which is like, okay, it's time to fold up. And it wasn't just like the internal stuff. There's, in a business context, there's a lot of external pressure that says, like, your lawyers are like, hey, you guys have raised a little bit of money, you should return capital, you've done this, you have to wind it down. And the final piece is, what you ultimately stumbled into is an entirely new company. You should shut this old one down and start a new one. And just out of like loyalty to the people that were there with us from the beginning and all sorts of other reasons, we decided to stay the course. But if there's it's my wife, who, Jen is her name. She's the one that was like, no, you can quit, definitely, but just quit tomorrow. And it's been sort of like, I'm quitting tomorrow for the last 7 years.
That's kind of a brilliant way to look at it, man. Like, you always have that option. If you can go a day more, go a day more.
Yeah. That's it. It's like your one more podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so brilliant and simple at the same exact time. It's like,
totally.
But it's good. It's good advice. And you went through the valley, and now you're on the upswing. You're on the upside of it. And probably some of the visions you had at the beginning are starting to come to fruition.
That's it.
Like, that's beautiful. So you gave like a rough outline of it, and I'm very lightly familiar with like cognitive behavioral therapy. And I guess that, I suppose that can be really specialized in different things, right? Because I know
Totally.
my son has Tourette's, and they've talked about this as being a way for him to make it less invasive, by going through it. And we've never tried it. We have yet to try it, not because we're skeptical, but just because financially or just logistically it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me. I mean, I'm a very science-minded person. I feel like if I could go back and wasn't going to be a musician for my whole life, I probably would have went into some type of psychology or something. I just really am interested and fascinated by the human brain and the way we interact. When something new comes along and it's cognitive behavioral therapy as a real option is pretty new, right? I mean, not new, but
yeah. So I think what's happening, the perception of it being new is that we're talking about it now. For some reason, it's been sort of behind the cloak of academia, and also very appropriately, like, trained psychologists and licensed clinical social workers and the people who are sort of on the ground pounding every day trying to make sure people are like healthy in a behavioral health context.
yeah.
But it's, as a field of study, it's been around for almost 50 years. I think it's like it's like 47 or something like that. It was sort of founded by this guy, Dr. Aaron T. Beck. And he wrote the book, literally, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, or Cognitive Behavior. Yeah, that's what the name of the book is. And then a bunch of sort of subgenres have splintered off. And there's this guy, Dr. David Burns. He wrote a book called Feeling Good, and he wrote that probably 30 years ago. And that sort of made it a more egalitarian option. Like, people learned, hey, I can learn about CBT, not necessarily visiting a psychologist. Although I would say, you'll never hear me say a cross word about going to see a psychologist. Seeing someone who's trained, seeing a behavioral health professional is a way to get it done if you're self-identifying as being in need of acute care. But for, like, folks that might be feeling like, hey, I'm in a funk, or hey, I want to figure out how to accelerate to the next version of myself, whatever. They did a bunch of studies. Interesting to hear about your son and managing Tourette's. They figured out that CBT is applicable. You can specialize it, but it's applicable across, like, basically everything. So there's people with obsessive compulsive disorder, Tourette's, ADHD. And so they did all these studies and figured out, oh, wow, there's real applicability across all this stuff. And then they just determined, we can't say how it can be leveraged, because we're not imaginative enough to think of all the contexts that it would be useful. So let's just say that this is quite useful and that everybody should learn it. And so, somewhere along the way, we learned that you can learn a hell of a lot from, they call it bibliotherapy, which is just a fancy way of saying reading a book about it. And so when we first started the company, we thought that that would be the direction. But we figured out that people don't like to read. And so now we've had to figure out how to introduce it in
Yeah.
other ways that nevertheless capture that spirit.
Yeah, it's definitely it's not to say that people don't like long form things or don't, that there aren't people that read, but yeah, even me, like used to read. I haven't read a book in decades, but I used to read. And I'm definitely not in the TikTok 30-second. My entertainment comes in longer than 30 seconds. I promise you that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as far as what form it comes in is pretty much like, either I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of long form podcasts. I'll spend hours on YouTube. It's just kind of the background of whatever I'm doing when I'm editing or whatever, is just podcasts, YouTube, etc. So I'm sure that there's people that are benefiting from that type of thing.
Totally. Yeah. And honestly, so for our curriculum, we kick off with it's like 90 minutes to 2 hours. It's a seminar, and we teach people about cognitive behavior theory. We also teach them about something called prospect theory, which sort of gives like the academic foundation for why CBT actually works. And then we go through the top 10 cognitive distortions that most folks deal with, and that exchange, like the academic portion of it, and then talking through people and having them give examples and us responding to it. That's like a 2-hour process. So I think like the long form thing is actually a really great way to communicate the information.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I mean, I think as you get older that you can, that people can not just tolerate, but actually enjoy long form a little bit more. You know, that's why the TikTok world, I do worry about like my kids' generation, as far as like, are they going to grow out of that, or are they always going to be, hey, give me all of my entertainment right now in 30-second form? Like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know that you grow out of it when the folks that are creating the algorithms that drive content on those platforms are myopically focused on user retention and, time in front of the screen. It's like you're being socially engineered to consume this type of content in a very deliberate way, with brilliant PhD level thinkers at the helm. And of course, if you go to them in their ordinary workplace, they're not thinking that they're doing anything malicious, but there's enough academic research papers out there now that speak to it, that folks' attention span is being dramatically affected by that sort of content. And if it feels good, and it's like your preferred method for taking in information, it's going to lead you to not want to necessarily change it. Like you're not actively searching for an alternative if it feels good. So there's some growth edge for us there in that space for sure.
Isn't it funny how you can look at a person, let's say there's someone at the top of that field and they're making money and their shit's working, their ideas are working, that they can both be like, what's the word? Like a successful, someone you admire for their success and their brilliance, while also they're kind of evil. They're kind of a villain, you know?
And without even knowing it. Like that's the problem, is that like people, I don't think hardly anybody wakes up in the morning and is like, actually, there's a really good book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie wrote it. And he talks about giving people the benefit of the doubt. And why do you do it? And it's because most people don't wake up in the morning and think, I'm the villain. Most people that are doing these things think, hey, I'm making it easier for people to digest information. I'm even making it easier to connect people who might not otherwise realize that they have anything in common. Like there's all these potentially altruistic end states that they're anchored to, but there's some unintended consequences too, that if we're not awake to, then bad on us.
Well, and it becomes, let's just take politicians, for example. Like you might have great intentions to really want to do some great things, but once you get in the game, you got to play the game. And once once they get taken by that, then it becomes about the power and the money and where I've heard from, like, I think Tulsi Gabbard years ago was talking about how a lot of times she wanted to leave because people would get in office and then they would just immediately start campaigning for their next 4 years. Like they weren't even doing shit. They didn't give a fuck. They were just trying to make sure they were covered. Like
totally.
But if everyone else is doing that, if they're all doing that, and then that's the culture, like you probably don't feel like you're doing anything wrong. Like, well, this is what we do here.
Yeah, that's how you have to compete. I mean, we face that in the business context. Um, Actually, it's funny you mentioned politics. After I left, I had command of one of our Navy's warships for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And after I left command, I had opportunity to interview for some political offices, and one of them was literally the U.S. Congress. And I took a couple of meetings with their campaign finance people, and it was more like exploratory. I just wanted to see, hey, what is this life like? What
Right,
would
right.
I be signing up for if I took the next step? And what I discovered very quickly is exactly what you described. It was the finance brief was like all on a whiteboard. It was like, this is what we're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. And then I was thinking, okay, well, where does like the representation and the leadership happen in this process? And it was ultra clear from the very outset that the expectation was that rather than being in a Capitol building, like, pounding the marble floor, trying to get stuff done, the expectation was that you'd walk across the street to the office building where every other representative was, and you would just be dialing for dollars. You just have to call to
What I heard.
fundraise to try and get your next campaign up and running. So the leadership and the representation element, it just felt like the constituency wasn't really there. It was mostly to
Yeah.
in the purest sense of it, it was to advance ideas, and you were essentially just a point person for it. But it felt a bit disingenuous, so we went a different direction, obviously.
Yeah, probably a good choice. It's unfortunate because if you were say that you went ahead and went into that and you got yourself in that position and you wanted to change, you were like, oh, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to be in there making shit happen. Probably doesn't last very long before they find a way to get you out of there, or they sit you down and go, hey man, you're making us look stupid. Stop.
Yeah, I think there's that piece, but then the other, like the part of me that realizes in hindsight that I was naive is that we went into this, we went into business, and the idea behind that was that, hey, it's a bit more um, like you can expedite your decision making a bit more easily in a business context because the return on investment horizon is expected to be shorter. So you got to
Right.
get stuff done faster. So we just thought, hey, this suicide crisis in the Department of Defense and the nation more broadly, the cognitive warfare threats posed by the likes of China, Russia, and others, like we got to get to work yesterday. And the business context is the way to do it. And then what I discovered very early on is that those same sorts of challenges present themselves in the business arena. So I don't know.
Right.
It's not exactly six one way, half a dozen the other, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, man. I mean, I think just by speaking with you for a minute, I think you believe in the good of people. Like I believe in the good of people. I want good things I'm not particularly on either side of the political spectrum. I just want good things for America. I want good things for the world. I want good shit to happen. But there's a lot of bad people in places that make it real. It's like dragging our feet. Even going back to when you're talking about how cognitive behavioral therapy, that's so hard. Just CBT is better. You're right.
Yeah. CBT. Yeah.
With CBT, when you look at the realm of like psychology and mental health, like how much bullshit there's been and how many different ideas for what's the new thing or what's been out since I was a kid. So like to make anything that's actually viable happen, it's just so slow. It's like a dragging your feet through all this shit and all this muck and trying to convince everybody we're not just a pop-up bullshit thing for you to get healthy quick,
Yeah. So there's the reason for that, which I discovered very quickly, is the incentive structure of venture capital. So if you want to make something real, it requires research, like legitimate research and development. The hard sciences, like the people that are trying to figure out how to refuel satellites in space and stuff like that, they've got the VC model kind of wired for this sort of research because they just know if I'm in biotech, it's going to be a 15-year play. Like they sort of get it. But if it's a psychology based, potentially consumer dual use type product, they really don't have a language for it. And so what happens is that if you're building something to prevent suicide or to improve people's psychological states, and you go into a venture capital brief and you're doing the pitch like Shark Tank style, it's a little bit different than that, but it's sort of this, pretty much the same. And you're pitching, they care about like, why do you need venture capital funds? And for them, they want their VC dollars to be like pouring gasoline on an existing fire in order to have it absolutely erupt.
Right.
And where if you're trying to build something real, like it's more like watering just a patch of dirt, unsure if there's a seed underneath the dirt.
Right.
You think there's a seed under there, but you really need some water in order to make it grow. But they don't want to give you that water. They want to give you gasoline. So
That makes sense.
that's it's where that's where the challenge is in seeing real products come to the market. And instead, what you were alluding to with this like pop up bullshit, is that they focus on metrics that don't really move the needle. So if you're putting forward like a psychology sort of app, and it's for the consumer, they'll look at like the number of users that you have on your app. That doesn't have a damn thing to do with outcomes. That has to do
Right.
with whether or not your marketing team was actually like able to get in front of enough eyeballs. But they just sort of like conflate those things, and it makes it challenging. So you have to stay in the game long enough to have enough success that you can say, "Hey, you should fund this." And then by the time you get there, you don't need the money to begin with because you're already getting paid by your customers.
Right. That's
So it's like a weird, yeah,
catch 22
yeah,
all around. Wow, man.
totally. Yeah. Does it make sense though? It's kind of hard if you
Yeah.
like to
Perfect.
conceptualize, but like once you're living in it, it's like, oh man, makes total sense.
No, if I've
Yeah.
got this bullshit hokey quick fix idea that I can sell and people all hop on and start following me and they start wanting to buy the product, they're quick to like, hey, let's blow that up to even bigger. But
Yep.
if your idea is great and has long-term benefits for people, that's actually a viable thing, yet you don't have that, you don't have that pop-up back audience,
Yeah.
they're just not interested. I totally get it. And by the time,
Yeah.
and again, like same thing with the podcast, like I would like to cross a barrier. I'd like to get over a hump with a bigger viewership and things. And it's like, how do you get to that point? And you could use help from that but they want you to be there first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the same principle. And you're like, but by the time I'm there, then I don't need your ass. Like, it's fine.
Totally. That's
I
it.
totally
And
get it.
the I guess the frustrating part is that if you wanted to buy that audience, right? Like if you wanted to take this really good idea and then put, flash to it so that it would get in front of a bunch of eyeballs and actually start to create the flywheel effect, it's like a $50 million investment. It's not a small investment. So you really do just need to do it the hard way. And so we've taken at work, we're just like, hey, pick the hardest thing and then go do that, because the line is really short. There's not a lot of people who've got grit enough to just stay the course. So just if it seems hard, celebrate that. And I mean, you hear that a bit now, it seems like in the blogosphere, where it's like the obstacle is the way sort of stuff. And there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because even in the realm of like social media, and I've thought about like I have this studio and I'm like, why don't I have a YouTube channel? Why don't I put out other content? Which I probably will. And you see people that get famous for weird reasons, and you're like, what the fuck? But then you see people who do that hard work, who are the ones in the short line and kill it, and it pays off.
Yeah,
where they end up with some kind of channel that's like incredibly useful, that they went through it and did the hard thing to make it great.
I think if back to your like, what does still fucking here mean to you? It's
Mhm.
also that for anybody that's trying to figure out what they want to do with their life, because a lot of times, I think now I even see it with my own kids. They're not on social. They're not users of social media yet, but I see the way that they interact with their friends and the stuff that they care about, and there is sort of an expectation for um, like immediate success. And it's almost like the people that are able to do it the long way, it's not that uh, it's like they're choosing a lifestyle that they're okay with, right? Rather than choosing a potential successful outcome. So
Yeah.
rather than choosing like, hey, what do I want success to look like? It's more like, what do I want my life to look like? And then that just sort of, if you do it long enough, is going to turn into a success. So if you like making podcasts, then that's great, but if you're only making podcasts because you want to be famous, maybe that's not a good strategy,
Right. That's the people that fall off at the valley.
Totally.
Like
Yep.
this is like I said, I've been a musician. I've traveled the country playing music for 25 years. I got to the point I got burnt out and my vocal cords kind of went south. So I've always wanted to do broadcasts, and I always wanted to be a
Yeah.
sports broadcaster. And I've been a big avid podcast listener for 15 years before it was popular. And I've
Yeah.
always wanted to do this. It's been a vision I've had for a really long time. So this is part of who I am now. It has nothing to do with like success. And I would love to make more money off of it so that I can keep doing it. You know what I mean? Have
Yeah.
more time to dedicate to it. But it was never for that. It was never for fame. It was never for anything other than to take my platform and put my stupid shit out there. You know what I mean? Like, here's my fucking depression. Here's my vulnerability. I know that you're sitting here with the same shit feeling like you're alone, but you're not. I'm with you. I know what it feels like. And that's 60 something episodes now of the same thing from other people, of us all talking about, you know, what we've been through, or even like you, where you're like, I've got these things that I think can improve people's lives. And it's something that thankfully the stigma around mental health is kind of lifting a little. It's getting a little better to talk about. Especially with men, man, and military men, even double that. Like, that's a way harder nut to crack.
Yeah, I think the stigma piece is like basically lifted. It, you know, it's I remember when we first started Chimney Trail Health, I would go and talk to very senior admirals and generals, like folks that you've seen on TV, that sort of level. And
Yeah.
I would talk about cognitive behavior theory, and they would be like, "What are you talking about, man? Are you talking about Scientology?" You know, they in a very earnest way, they just had no idea, you know, what it was. And then they would, in a very earnest way, they would say, "Oh man, with, you know, psychological issues, you know, I fixed that with like an all hands call on the flight deck, or I fixed that all hands call with the company in formation or whatever." Now,
Yeah.
7 years later, uh, I think they're starting to sort of come around to. I mean, there's been some like generational change in those ranks, but I think they're coming around to, oh, we have a legitimate cognitive warfare threat that we're facing, like very sophisticated actors in China and Russia, and other places. You know, even in the house, like
Yeah.
inside the lifelines of the U.S., we've got, you know, threats, and I think that they're starting to see just how powerful these platforms are, because it's not like the old days of like propaganda and warfare where you'd have a big cargo plane and you dump out a bunch of
Drop out
pamphlets all over.
leaflets. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that. It's like getting, you know, you might be looking at Sunshine and Puppy Dog Tales in your phone, but inside the back of it is marching the combined force of the Chinese Communist Party. And what you're seeing is so like uh specific to the way that you like to digest information that it's really difficult to say no to. And so I think that they're starting to come around to this idea that, hey, we need to take this cognitive warfare and psychology stuff quite seriously. And so I see a major difference at the highest levels of the US government.
Well, yeah, and what's even more terrifying, mix in that we're at the point where AI is almost reality. So
Totally.
everything we're consuming is you don't know what's real almost anymore. So
Yeah.
like there's going to be especially a period of now when that transition to where there's got to be a way that we're going to be able to tell the difference at some point. Like they're going to do something, they have to. But in that transition, we're kind of fucked, dude.
You're right on the money. Like it's like there's this woman that is pure AI. I can't remember her name, but she was all over advertisements
The
at
one at the
Wimbledon.
tennis. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Saw it.
She was at Wimbledon. Yeah, 160 some thousand followers, like almost overnight. And
Yep.
obviously, like impossibly high beauty standards. So it's going to do nothing for our daughters. It's just going to completely thrash their self confidence. And
100%.
so what we're trying to do at Chimney Trail Health is make it so that the same sort of reflex that you had when you got that email from the Nigerian prince that was like, "Hey, give me some money and I'll do," you know, that you're smiling. And that's the feeling that we all get. It's like, oh, that was a silly gimmick. We want to make sure that we've trained ourselves to be able to vet information very quickly for ourselves, because we know we've got enough body of evidence now to know that the economic incentives for the social media companies and for other companies to do it on their own is just very, very low. So we need to train people on how to do it themselves. And so it starts with things like learning prospect theory, learning loss aversion theory, learning cognitive behavior theory. but you're not going to go back to like seventh grade health class or gym class or whatever to learn these concepts. So we got to figure out how to present it in a fun, human performance focused way, not like a don't kill yourself sort of way. And so
Right.
that's what we're working on every day.
Yeah, that's real fascinating. It's going to be a real interesting thing to see how this all shapes out. We had a psychologist on a while back who was trying to, this is kind of separate but also connected, trying to implement some kind of program that he had designed, and he was working with Facebook, he was working with Google, he was working with all these companies, where he would implement some kind of thing giving social media a score based on the mental health aspect of it, how
Yeah.
much they did to take care of you or to protect you, or so on
Yeah.
and so forth. But there's so many other aspects of it where, like, when you think about America as a country and you think about a lot of the things we've done have created a lot of enemies. There's a lot of people that want to bring America down, and I'm not saying we should go attack them, but I'm saying we have to protect ourselves,
Totally.
for whatever reasons. And you think about how nearly impossible it would be to just invade the continental United States. Would be very difficult. But if you can sneak 50,000 military-age Chinese men over the border, which has happened, and then incorporate all of the shit going on with what you're talking about, the cognitive warfare that's going on, and you could literally pull America apart from within. I mean, it sounds far-fetched and movie-like, but
Yeah,
really,
it's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched at all. It's there's prior art. Like if you look at Ukraine right now in 2014 in the Crimean Peninsula, there was a direct, in fact, Frontline did an amazing documentary. It's called The Facebook Dilemma. And the idea behind it was they were tracking how Facebook was being used. This isn't to make Facebook a boogeyman by any stretch, but how they were using Facebook in order to get inside the population of the Crimean Peninsula of Ukraine and essentially fracture it. And so they had some wild stuff that they were doing. They were like saying that particular villages were like raping babies, and I mean, just horrifying stuff to specifically pit these groups of people against each other. And you can see how it can manifest itself right here in the United States. It's like if you
100%.
like pit people against each other, and you forget like the whole e pluribus unum sort of ethos of our country, it's easy to see how it could fracture. And I think uh, there is what we haven't quite wrapped our mind around is how quickly it can happen. So you think, oh, well, we would see it coming, but it's not like
Mm-mm.
that. It's like a frog being boiled in a pot, but then all of a sudden just boiling the hell out of it, like torching it,
Yeah.
because it happens. 10 years of history can happen in a day, as you saw when Russia invaded Ukraine. And it was all because they were sort of like cultivating this soil of discontentedness and lack of trust in that Crimean Peninsula in 2014. So, um, yeah, it's super dangerous stuff, and we got to be aware. We just got to be awake to it, and so
Yeah.
we're working real hard on that.
My fear with some of that is, and this all ties together too with, like, we're at a spot now that not only are we so divided on the political spectrum in this country, the citizens, we also have never trusted our government less than we do right now. So when it comes to things like this, like, and I'm like, okay, well, somebody, the military, the government, somebody's going to have to, like, help us through this situation. But I don't trust that they won't do something to overstep it and use it to their advantage. And it's unfortunate because you're like, look, I want to be protected, but I want freedom. I don't want you to
Mhm.
control what I get to see or what I get to do, but I want you to help make it safe. But that's such a slippery slope, man.
It totally is. And really, I'm in Okinawa right now, and just before that, I was in mainland Japan. I'm getting ready to go back to mainland Japan. I'm doing some support for the U.S. Marine Corps. They've brought Chimney Trail Health on to provide CBT training and all sorts of things for the entire, basically the whole U.S. Marine Corps. And so I'm here, and I'm noticing like their idea of freedom, because they're a freedom-loving society as well. And uh, it's like, I'm with you. There's some growth edge in the US for what freedom actually means. Like, how do we advance the idea of freedom? Because here, like, you'll go onto the subway and it's silent. It's like library silent. And it's like, people aren't free to talk? Yeah, they're free to talk, but what they're doing is create an environment where everyone that's riding this really like claustrophobic sort of situation is free from harassment, because they're like, okay, this is a unnaturally claustrophobic area. Let's make it as peaceful as humanly possible. And so they do that. And then like culturally, they're almost obsessive about cleanliness. And it's like, well, you know, they don't have trash cans all over their city. Like there's no trash cans anywhere. And you're like, well, I'm not free to like walk and eat and whatever, but then you're like free from the idea of overconsumption. So it's like these weird trade-offs that we have to sort of,
Yeah.
grapple with. But I think to the question of whether the government has a role in the protection of the information that you're digesting, I think the government has a role in educating people that there are threats out there. So if you are digesting this information, you have to become upgunned in your critical thinking skills so that you can, because to your point, AI is going to make it so confusing because it's so
Yeah.
real. You have to learn how to cross-reference and vet information. Basically, like in the academic space, they'd say check the bibliography or check the notes. You have to be able to check the notes with literally everything that you consume. So I think the government should be stepping in the sense that it's like, let's educate people about these threats and how to think critically about vetting information. It reminds me of like back in maybe when you and I were kids, like The More You Know. Do you remember those
Yeah.
things?
Yep.
Like, yeah, like I'm just like, where is the more you know about like how to vet information that you're seeing online? Because that it's just bullshit, and you have to figure out how to create a bullshit proof your mind, so to speak.
Well, and the deeper problem with that, and you can open your social media right now and see it, is that our country, first of all, is no one, I mean, any age is good at vetting information or actually looking for shit, because what they do is they live in an echo chamber and something comes across that supports the narrative that they like and they share it. They don't do any research. They don't give a fuck. And then they'll fight for it without having any information about it. Like it's just narrowed down to what's the simplest, most convenient thing I can do to back up my cause and the team I'm on. And they put no work, no effort, no understanding. They don't care.
Totally. And I don't know that it's from like a malicious place. It's more like I want to be an advocate. I want to, for my team, not really understand. Yeah. Just not understanding that, hey, it's like you see, on the podcast reels recently, there's like this, almost like violent disagreement among the political parties and all this sort of thing. And then you had Trump administration folks go on podcasts, and the podcasters were like, oh, I can sort of see where these folks are coming from, right? And then you had like this like wild shift over to this philosophy for a bit, and then the Pete Buttigieg's of the world come on, and they go on the same podcasts, and then the podcast folks are like, oh yeah, I can see this guy's point too. And then the net of all of this is that one philosophy or the other is not like all right or all wrong, but the thing that is wrong is the vilification of the other person with whom you're having the disagreement. And so just having sort of a reflex to think, and this is all CBT, like this is all like the cognitive distortion that we're suffering from in this domain is called emotional reasoning. And it's where you're using your own emotional reaction as the proof of whatever it is that you're trying to advocate. Because you feel strongly about it, then it means it's true, which just ain't so. But the vilification of the other side because of that emotional reasoning reflex, we have to learn how to control.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think it's not, I think people will proudly, put on the jersey, I'm a Republican, my big foam finger and like whatever, or a Democrat. And I think you should just be an American and look at both sides objectively, consider what seems right, do some research, try to understand, realize neither is the enemy. Probably I grew up kind of a Democrat. My family wasn't very political, but pretty liberal socially, all my life, and pretty poor. So I also like fuck the Republicans because they've got money, and like I had these opinions that they weren't well thought out, But as I got older, I kind of dug deeper into that with watching things on YouTube and got into it. And then at some point I took this turn and I started watching Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder and the other side. And I'm like, oh, they're just other dudes that have different ideas of how to get to the same thing. We all just want peace and a chance to thrive, like
Yeah,
different ways to get there. Like nobody's a villain, dude. I mean, there are villains within all of it, but turn away from your fucking team. You're not a Republican. You're a person. You're not a
totally.
Democrat. You're a person.
Yep. Well, and the issue is that, the same thing that you're talking about, wishing that you could expand your viewership or listenership a little bit. And it's like
Mhm.
the fastest way to do that is to say some crazy shit. Just say,
Yeah.
just say stuff that's inflammatory, and you can get famous really fast because taboo it equals clicks. And so if you're trying to do it the hard way, if you're trying to have reasoned debate and reasoned conversation, it's really hard to break. It's hard to break out. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. It's a
There's
tough
nothing,
challenge for us.
there's nothing exciting talking about, getting
No,
healthy. It's not
that's it.
exciting.
Well, I get stoked because the CBT side of the house is something that we should have learned when we were 12. All the research shows the earlier that you can get this stuff, the better off you are. And the reason for that is because it doesn't allow your brain to fall into these destructive ruminative thought cycles that really do get insulated. There's like actual brain chemistry happening, like myelination is like happening to make it so that you can more quickly access bad thoughts, these
Yeah.
ruminative negative thought spirals. If you learn CBT early enough, then it makes it so that you don't become subject to those negative ruminative thought cycles to begin with. Or even if you do, which we're all going to have negative thoughts, even if you do, you're able to sort of metabolize them more effectively. Like you
Yeah.
don't allow them to establish like insulated patterns to where you access them, like the same way that you access like how to eat food with a fork. Like you don't want to
Yeah.
default to negativity that easily. And so CBT sort of yanks you out of that. And what it also does is it gives you like an inoculation against extremism when it comes to your conversations with people. Like you're able to look at it through a bit more of a detached lens. You may have heard some self-help gurus say like, hey, be your own best friend, or like treat yourself the way that you would speak to a best friend. And that's like half of it. The other half is make sure that it's the type of best friend that's not just amplifying an echo chamber of
Mm.
destructive thought patterns and
Yep.
stuff that's just not true, but the type of friend who pushes back on the more rational thoughts
Yeah. Yeah.
that you're maybe not seeing.
Yeah, because you can easily, if you're a gambling addict, you could easily be your best friend that says it's fine to go gamble. You need to be the
Totally,
best
throw it
friend,
down,
the best friend
double
that's
or
looking
nothing.
out for you. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
funny. I brought this up on another episode. And this is such a small thing, but it's so significant when you really like put it in perspective. Where like my YouTube is generally like a lot of body cam videos, a lot of comedy because I watch a lot of comedy podcasts and comedians, and a lot of like political shit. So there's a lot of Dave
yeah,
Smith, there's a lot of Piers Morgan. Just I like those conversations. So, but there have been times where I just get locked into watching it, and it's just the same shit, the same shit, the same shit. And I'm like, the other day, I had a long time ago watched this guy called Sitting with Dogs, and he goes and he sits
okay,
in a whatever you call those places, and whatever, sits with these dogs who have been taken out of their home or whatever, and they're having a bad day. And he works with them for like an hour till they come around and they're in his lap, and normally shit works out really well. And one was on, I just watched it and I'm like, man, I feel really good disconnected from all that shit. And I'm like, sometimes you just gotta watch the dog video. Sometimes you just gotta
totally.
purposely step out, go, hey, I've already listened to all this shit. I don't need to listen to more of this shit. I already know what's going on. I'm not saying you shouldn't stay up on shit, like by all means, but know when to cut it off. Spend an hour or two
That's
and
it.
then fucking watch dog videos or whatever
You
your
got
goofy thing is.
you got to do it. I mean, that's it, and that's you never hear me like vilify social media or the internet or anything like that. What you will hear me is say like take the threats that come along with it very seriously. Like if you're not going into it eyes wide open, you're just a victim. Like you're just waiting to get taken advantage of.
Right.
But the place is also, uh, you know, a farm or a garden of really potentially positive content. I'd like to think that
Mhm.
your podcast is some of that, but the dog video, and I always watch um what's it called? Wristwatch Revival. I don't know if you've ever seen this guy,
I
Sutcliffe. he
Already
takes
sounds cool. I can
yeah,
imagine what it is.
he takes wristwatches apart and puts them back together again, but it's like a Bob Ross version
Yeah,
of wristwatch repair.
yeah,
Amazing, just super therapeutic.
yeah,
Even not to completely vilify the Chinese people. There's an amazing YouTube channel called Lee Ezeki, I think it's called, and it's a woman who goes around and fixes her farm. She's just like fixing random stuff in her farm and cooking meals in sort of like a traditional,
yeah.
ancient Chinese method of doing things, and it's super therapeutic and useful. But yeah, you can also fall down the rabbit hole and be, you know, uh, I don't know, turn into a violent extremist if you don't figure out how
Well,
to check your own thinking.
and it's easy to understand why that's attractive. Like when
Totally.
you watch those videos, they're exciting. There's tension. But there's another guy I watched that I totally forgot about. I actually watch him pretty frequently called the something Stockman, the midlife Stockman. And all he
Okay.
does is go through basically the hood, and he finds houses that the yard's overgrown and the trees are overgrown and there's all this shit. And he, for free, cleans that shit up, and he does it all in speed. Like you see it all fast. And then he shows
Yeah.
videos at the end of it cleaned up and what it did look like. It's so satisfying.
Yeah. It's
And
great.
he's got 500,000 views on every video. So other people get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish those guys got paid more. Like if you
Yeah.
try and figure out like how are they getting paid, it's great advertising for their company. It's
Yeah.
creative. It's creative for like a local business owner to go around and do that sort of pro bono work and to leave you with content that after watching it you feel like, okay, maybe I can get up and turn my little backyard patch into a garden or whatever. It's
Yeah.
pseudo inspirational. So yeah, no, I'm all for it. As long as we've got an appropriate level of skepticism as we approach it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you should with everything. I'm very much I'm a very scientific minded person. Actually, that brings me to another question I meant to ask earlier, not to get sidetracked. When you say cognitive behavioral theory, it's funny how have you ever had to like I don't imagine that you're really getting confronted with this, but the general population doesn't understand the word theory in a scientific context versus everyday speech.
Totally.
Have you
That's
dealt with that? Have you had that come at you very much?
all the time, all the time. So
So, oh,
the training that we give it's like so compelling because it's good for a young Marine, like a 17-year-old, got the waiver to join early, just fresh off his high school baseball team, Marine. And it's also good. We do work for Ernst and Young, a huge accounting firm. We do work for Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, some of those brilliant people in the world. It's good for that level of like critical scientific thinking. But you're hammering on a really good point here, which is when I go talk to Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, I say the word theory, and their processing of that is like, oh, this is the best scientific evidence we have to date. When I
yes.
say that to a young Marine, they're like, oh, this is just his guess. And I
Yeah.
have to explain, like, oh, a theory in a scientific context is not like, hey, this is just some random dude who made a guess. This is like, it's been through a scientific method of
Right.
evaluation. And oh, by the way, it's evidence based and there's 217 research papers written on it. And yeah,
Yeah.
you're totally right. So
You said it on
knowing your
three different
audience
things.
matters.
Yeah. You said it on three
Yeah.
different things, and I'm like, man, it pains me because, like I said, I've always been a science-minded person, and I understand science very well. And it pains me how often people go, "That's just a theory." What do you mean? It's just a theory? What?
Yeah, there's like the theory of relativity,
Oh, it's
It's
just
like,
a theory. It's like somebody just went out and went.
yeah,
Well, I mean, gravity is only a theory if you're talking like that. Like
right,
somebody just went out and go,
totally.
oh, it looks like there's gravity. Well, it's my theory.
Yeah.
No,
And
they
who
don't
knows?
understand.
Maybe there's
It's a method. There's a
totally
methodology. The scientific
right.
method, it goes through, the hypothesis to the testing to eventually to explaining what your results are and having it peer reviewed by other people who have the knowledge to test and find the same things. And only then is it allowed to be called a theory.
Right. Yeah. And I think what you're getting at is it is the antidote to cognitive warfare. So the thing about this threat from China and Russia and others that would mean to fracture, or not even like, I wouldn't even say that China would be trying to like destroy America, but China would definitely be incentivized to want to weaken American influence, right? Just
Of
like the
course.
idea of democratic norms, because they're a one party system. And if you've got a thriving world dominant, multi party system, that's not good for business. So they want to like weaken our perceived success. And I think if it's a really effective threat, but it's also very brittle. It's a very brittle threat. And it's brittle because the moment that you get people to start thinking in that methodology that you were just describing, like you make a casual observation and then you create a hypothesis around it, and then you test the hypothesis, and then you observe the results, and then you record it, and then you peer review it, and then if you have people that understand that, they cannot fall victim to these cognitive warfare threats as easily. Now, it's not to say that they can't, period, but it's way, way more difficult to get a
Right.
nucleus of shared thought to derail democracy or something, huge scale
Yeah.
like that. So
you're talking the difference between somebody once a year accidentally sharing some bullshit versus somebody who's going to share everything that's complete bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, just with some education.
exactly. Totally. That's exactly right. A little bit of education, and you've got like one person randomly doing it occasionally, which incidentally is what it used to be like. They used
Yeah.
to do like the measurements of erroneous information shared across social
Yeah.
media and the internet in general, and it was like negligible. Now it's not negligible, and we got to get it back to a point where it's negligible again.
I think X is kind of doing the right thing. I don't know if you've seen what they're doing, where number
What are they
one,
doing?
Grok will come in, the AI will come in and comment on something if it's not found to be true. But you can also, let's say that I post something on Grok, or I post something on X, and you come in and you're like, I don't know if that's real. You can just tag Grok and say, hey, Grok, what's up with this post? Is this real? And it will go and
Look
say,
at that
hey,
again.
no, actually, yeah, it'll
Yeah.
look through it and tell you what's true or not true, which I
Yeah,
think
I
is
remember
a useful tool.
totally. I remember reading a little bit. It's like all things, there's like two sides to it, because I remember reading that they were using uh, methods where they were like curating the list of academic papers that were being used in order to feed it. They were like training it, and
Mm-hmm.
in other words, XAI was sourcing the credibility of whatever the inputs were. And
Right.
so there was a whole lot of discussion of, oh, wait a minute, are they stacking the deck?
Right.
What are they doing over there?
Yeah. Who are you to
Yeah,
choose? Like
exactly.
now we're
So
talking to you and not, yeah, I get it.
yeah, so
That is
you're
a
sort of
fair.
relying on you're relying on them essentially to do the vetting, which is what Facebook got in big trouble for when it came to the COVID pandemic. They
Mhm.
were trying to figure out like, hey, there is scientifically peer reviewed stuff in this space. However, we're literally living through a experiment in real life, which is why everybody's pissed at each other, because we're used to just sort of like relying on the scientists to figure it out for us, and we didn't much appreciate being the control and the variable in a given.
Yeah.
And like we didn't want our society to be the control and the variable. And Facebook was trying really hard to figure out, okay, well, what's already been verified over the last 15 years, and what is like new and emerging, and how do we shape this narrative in a way that's best for public health, which is very different from individual health. And then I
Yeah.
think they came to the conclusion that, oh, wait a minute, public health, like individuals use our platform, so we need to present it to them. And so now you see Mark Zuckerberg sort of just like, Jesus, take the wheel, because he's like, I got to get out of that game. It was
I
too
don't know
hard.
if I
Yeah,
don't know if there's a simple answer, and I don't know if anyone or any group of people are capable of answering that, of properly figuring out exactly what to do. It's not simple.
that's that's exactly right. And for a long time, we've relied on sort of an open source solution to these problems. But the problem is, if the people who are making the assessments have been essentially infected with disinformation, then we've got real problems on our hands. So that's sort
It's
of
true.
back to why our company exists. It's to give you the tools to be able to see the cognitive distortions that the human brain most easily falls into, and make sure that when you're taking in this information, you're doing it through a lens of like rational thinking rather than emotional reasoning and that sort of thing.
It sounds so extremely valuable, man. I'm glad that I'm glad you're taking this on, and you've stuck with it long enough for it to start to come to fruition and start to actually matter.
I get goosebumps talking about it because obviously now we're in a position where we've enjoyed a little bit of financial success and the team's growing, still small, but the team's
Yeah.
growing. But the thing that matters is that we'll get emails regularly from people, not like just young Marines or young whoever, seasoned people, like people who've been around a while, and brilliant minds that are in charge of important stuff. And they'll say stuff like, uh, I was actively thinking about ending it. I've been harboring suicidal ideations for the last 5 years. I started reading through the CBT stuff that you guys are putting out, and it's changing the way that I approach it. Like, they're understanding that there's a scientific reason that they're feeling this way to begin with, and there's a
Hmm.
scientific way to get the hell out of it. And which is not in any way to insinuate that there's not really useful spiritual avenues here. This is not like a either or with the religious community, because some of our biggest advocates are the chaplains in the armed forces across faith groups. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, people are benefiting from it. We want to go faster. So first, thanks for having me on the podcast, because like we do want to go faster and get this information out there. And um, but yeah, the results are coming in and they're good. They're damn good.
I love it, man. I mean, to go back to what you were just saying of as far as having a spiritual attack and having this attack. When we go to war, we don't just send the Navy, we don't just send the Army, we don't just send the Air Force. Like, send everything. Like, if you're going to, I still deal with depression. I've improved a lot because of this podcast, to be honest. But
Yeah,
I went through suicidal ideation years ago, and it's it's tough, dude. And you do have to come at it from every fucking angle, really.
yeah, yep.
So you might need all of that and CBT and whatever God you believe in or whatever spiritual thing you have. Man,
That's it.
well,
Yeah, there's a great Henri Nouwen is a Catholic priest who spent a lot of time in France working with people who had um, psychological trauma. They had developmental delays. They had a bunch of different things. He wrote this really awesome book called Life of the Beloved. And if you read the book and then you read the book Feeling Good by Dr. David Burns, you will see that if you just like overlapped them, there is like so much commonality between these two things. And one is theoretically purely like faith based, right? It's like a Catholic. He's essentially a monk, is what he is, and he's a monk that has come into these things sort of in his own spiritual way. But then you take Dr. Burns, who is sort of the direct. He was the understudy to Dr. Aaron T. Beck, who founded the idea of
mhm.
CBT, and you look at the way that he structures the arguments around the cognitive distortions that brains regularly deal with, and then you put them together, there is tremendous overlap. So yeah, used to be that I was really concerned, like, oh man, I hope the religious leaders don't feel like we're sort of usurping their authority when it comes to
Right.
purpose and meaning and all those. And what we're actually getting from them is, no, you're creating a clearer lens with which to like manifest whatever your spiritual experience is supposed to be. And so,
That's
you
great.
know, high fives to all of them, because yeah, they've been super helpful.
That's awesome. Well, we're knocking on the hour, so usually towards the end of the episode, Ty's here and he says, "This is his word," but this is his part of the podcast. He says, "Do you have any saved rounds? Anything you didn't get to, we didn't talk about?"
Yeah, saved rounds. That's the old military thing, right? It's like
Yeah, yeah.
before you leave the range, you don't want to have like some hot stuff exploding. So, um, yeah, saved rounds is. I think I would just say I don't want to terrify your listeners. I don't want to make them feel like, oh God, we're under attack. But I do want to sensitize everybody that the things that we consume every day constitute our intellectual diet, right? It constitutes like who you become, the way that you think. And you got to know that in the same way that you would not pick up books written by violent extremists to figure out how to live your life. You might do it from an academic sense to understand their way of thinking, but you wouldn't want that to inform the way that you interact with your neighbor. You have to approach your social media the same way, because we're not like approaching a cognitive warfare threat environment. We are living in the middle of one right now because there is a great power competition that is on right now with principally the People's Republic of China. It's like they used to call it a near peer actor, and it's very fast approaching peer status. So be aware of the stuff that you are consuming. Put down the smartphone and like turn off the social media in very deliberate ways, because the health benefits of that are, I mean, the research is in, it's staggeringly high. And if you are at a company that values your mental health and you feel like you would benefit from what we've built at Chimney Trail, give us a call. We will move heaven and earth. Don't worry about budgets. We'll figure out the money stuff, but we want to help as many people as we can. We're like on a mission over here. So yeah, call us in, and we'll teach you about prospect theory, loss aversion theory, cognitive behavior theory, and all the stuff that you need in order to create your own critical thinking superpower to navigate this really changing environment.
Awesome. I'm going to connect you also with the SFH people who sponsor the podcast.
Oh, nice.
That's an apparel company, and they do co-brand stuffs where basically half the whatever sold comes to you. They do the shirts type thing. I don't know all the details because I don't work for them, but something along those lines. They do a lot of really cool co-brand stuff with, and it stands for Still Fucking Here.
Love it.
Their whole thing. So maybe you guys can get connected and work together on something.
Yeah, we'll get this Still Fucking Here bullshit proof your brain combo set, whatever.
Sounds fucking perfect.
Yeah, man.
Last thing, do you have any links, anything you want to direct people toward, or if they want to find you?
Yeah, definitely. So you just go to www.chimneytrailhealth.com. We didn't even talk about the origins of the company, but the chimney's like, you've got passion and fire and you want to channel it, or if you're in the wilderness of depression, you want to find your way home, the chimney's sort of like the archetypal cornerstone. So it's chimneytrailhealth.com. And if you visit the site, you'll see like how it works. You'll see our white paper, which shows the academic, foundation of the company and what we do and how we can team up with your company. We don't do business to consumer yet, but we do business to government, business or business to business. So it's got everything you need right there on the site.
I love it, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Two different things we also offer up. 6 months from now, if you want to come back on, or a few months or something, we'd love to have you back to talk about more, maybe get more into see what's been going on. But in between that, if anything comes up that you want me to shout out, just let me know. Like if something comes up that you want me to put out here, I'll just mention it on an episode or whatever.
I appreciate it. Well, if you've got any Marines listening, let them know that we're out for them. Like I'm in Okinawa right now. I'm getting ready to go back to Iwakuni. The Marines, we are on the trail, making sure you get this training. So there's a little shout out, I guess. But thanks for the offer, Jack. I appreciate it.
My co-host is a Marine, and we've had several Marines on, so we do have a lot of Marine listeners. So I definitely think they'll appreciate that. But for everybody else, thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it as usual. Like, share, subscribe, all that good shit. And I'm glad you're still fucking here.